And welcome to Hannity. This is a Fox News alert. We are exactly 24 hours away from the CNN presidential debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, which will be simulcast right here on the Fox News channel tonight. Throughout the show, we will cover the topics that should be discussed in any presidential debate, like, let's see, the 400 illegal, unvetted Joe Biden immigrants smuggled across Joe Biden's wide-open southern border by an ISIS-linked group. According to a new bombshell report, the Biden administration has completely lost track of dozens of these potential terrorists now inside our country. I've been warning you, praying I'm wrong, but I told you I'd be right. A full report is straight ahead tonight. Also tonight, we will focus on Biden inflation, which is not transitory as prices continue to rise every month, month after month. John Solomon also here tonight with breaking news, a new report on the so-called Biden brand. And will fake Jake Tapper or fake Dana Bash ask Biden about his ties to his son's shady international business partners, or the fact that Joe Biden lied about the issue? I never spoke to my son or brother or anybody. Or Joe's lies that in the last debate he had with Donald Trump about Hunter's very real laptop. Will they ask him why he lied about these things over and over and over again? Will any of these important topics, come up that we just mentioned in this presidential debate, or will fake news CNN focus on abortion, climate change, January 6th, the 2020 election, and democracy in peril? Their other favorite topic, because I have some bad news for the Biden Democrats at fake news CNN. Well, we have a new poll from the Washington Post, and it is out, and it found that swing state deciders trust Donald Trump more than Biden to protect democracy, not Joe Biden. And as it turns out, trying to jail your chief political rival in the middle of an election while censoring his speech with a gag order, while also trying to force him off the ballot in several states, well, it's kind of frowned upon by Americans who actually happen to be fair-minded and care about democracy. Now, on top of that, that's not the only bad poll for Joe Biden and his supporters at fake news CNN. A brand new Quinnipiac University survey. It now has Donald Trump up by 4 nationwide in a head-to-head matchup with Biden. In previous results, by the way, from this Quinnipiac poll, it had Biden tied or in the lead all year. Now Trump up by 4. And get this, Donald Trump is up by 6 if you include third-party candidates. Meanwhile, Nate Silver, who is a well-known left-leaning statistician, loved by the liberal, leftist, radical mob crowd, well, he launched his first presidential election forecast of 2024. According to Nate Silver, quote, "The presidential election is not a toss-up." He continues, "As our model launches, either Biden or Trump could easily win, but the odds are, well, heavily in Trump's favor. As of right now, Silver is predicting that Trump has more than a 65% chance of winning in November. By the way, don't take any of these polls to heart. Act as though you're 6 points behind, you have no timeouts, you have a 2-minute drill going, you're on your own 20, you got to drive down the field 80 yards, cross the plane, kick the extra point if you want to win. Play like you're behind." Needless to say, Biden needs a boost from tomorrow's CNN presidential debate, needs it badly. Luckily for Joe, well, 2 of his biggest supporters are moderating with topics and graphics produced by CNN's far-left staff. As Vivek Ramaswamy put it, it will be stacked against Donald Trump, likely the whole time. Take a look.
I'm looking forward to hopefully what is a policy-rich debate that actually informs Americans of facts they need. I'll also tell you something I told President Trump, and I'll tell you as well, is I give him a lot of credit for doing this debate on the terms that were effectively set by Biden. Hosted by CNN in Atlanta without a live audience would be the equivalent of Joe Biden agreeing to do a Fox News hosted debate in Alabama with 3,000 live audience members. So I give Donald Trump a lot of credit for that. If you're going to lead the country, you got to be able to show up, and that's exactly what he's doing.
Well said. So what are the odds that fake news CNN will be pro-Biden and biased? Well, we actually have a poll. It's on Hannity.com or Sean Hannity on X. If you want to go, it's at Sean Hannity on X or Hannity.com. And we'll give you results at the end of the show tonight. As of now, by the way, we put it up during my radio show. Over 90% so far of those voting believe there's a 100% chance that fake news CNN will favor Joe Biden. Well, the thought of it. I sincerely hope and I mean this, for the sake of the country, that I'm wrong. And somehow, some way, fake Jake, fake Dana conduct a fair and balanced debate. The odds, I would argue, are low. Between the format of tomorrow's contest, the pro-Biden moderators, the liberal producers at fake news CNN, Biden, they've done everything they can do to set him up for success, never mind probably cases of Red Bull. But will he also get another boost in the form of that caffeinated pill or that Red Bull or something stronger? We'll never know because Biden is refusing to take a drug test. But if he comes out to the debate stage, hyper-caffeinated or jacked up Joe like the State of the Union, where he screamed and yelled the entire speech in record time, it'll be obvious to the American people watching. That will also be problematic for Joe. Now, with the exception of his insane State of the Union speech, Joe Biden has been practically comatose for months. He stares off into space. We played the videos over and over. He forgets where to stand. He freezes up, struggles with names, struggles with dates. Basic tasks are often difficult for Joe. So if he debates with energy and vigor that we usually don't see, just know that's not usual Joe. Anyway, the president's day-to-day is pretty pathetic at this point. He wakes up late, goes to bed early. Most days he participates in no more than one public event. But while Joe Biden sleeps, his radical staff is trying to transform our country into something pretty scary. Open borders, out-of-control spending, $4 trillion in new debt the last 2 years alone. New tax proposals, 44% capital gains tax. That will add to like an American depression or create one. And every month, a war on American energy and a special dedication, of course, to woke politics. Now, for example, this is Rachel Levine, Joe Biden's Secretary for Health. Now, Rachel Levine allegedly wanted to make it easier for children, not for adults, for children, to receive life-altering transgender procedures, including mastectomies and genital surgeries. So according to a report, Rachel Levine successfully pressured medical experts to nix age limits in their guidelines for these extreme, irreversible procedures, making them more accessible to young children. Joe Biden promised to restore the soul of a nation and bring decency back to the White House. Instead, we got a deadbeat granddad, cocaine in his White House with no suspects at all after 10 long days of investigating. We have rampant lawfare and the weaponization of our Department of Justice, wide open borders from some of our top geopolitical foes and countries with terror ties, some of the highest levels of crime we've ever seen. No punishment for those committing them, record-setting inflation, and an Assistant Secretary of Health who is working hard to increase gender-altering surgeries for your children. It will only get worse from here if Biden, God forbid, wins in the fall. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.